40 Watters, welcome to another episode, 40 Watt Podcast, where we have withstood the battle of technology. We have stood firm, we have solved all the problems, and we are here to talk about guitar things, because that's what we do. Before we get going, you already know who my episode's with, and it's going to be a good time. But this episode is brought to you by, this is where I thank the people who give money to keep this going. First of all, I want to thank Mark at Summer School Electronics. Mark is making extremely rad and fun pedals. As this episode is going out, he's just wrapped up his Halloween edition of his middle school chorus, the Middle Ghoul Chorus. I hope you got that limited edition artwork version of that pedal. I really love that chorus pedal. It's a lot of fun. Also, this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Maris. Maris have launched a really fun episode where they sit down with George Trips and talk about their time at Line 6. Hope you've gotten a chance to check that out. I don't really have to tell you much about Maris pedals because you guys have seen them all over the place. They're still some of my favorite out there. I love a lot of pedals, but I tend to have some favorites, and the Mercury X is still my favorite reverb. If it ever gets beaten by something, I'll let you know. And also, this episode is brought to you by Barry over at Grez Guitars. Barry is making some of the coolest guitars. I've been really itching to get back into a single pickup junior style guitar, and I might have to hit Barry up for one of his Mendocino Juniors because they are some of the most fun guitars to play. And yeah, I could go to Gibson and get a Les Paul Jr., but I feel like it's so much cooler. Barry has this unique take on it, and the build quality is second to none. He builds some of his guitars out of reclaimed redwood, sustainably sourced and built. And really, just click the links below. Go check out the website and check out his Instagram. All right, moving on. This week, I'm talking with Alex from Coppersound Pedals. Alex, how are you, sir?
Hi, Philip. We waded waters for about 70 minutes to get this crystal clear audio for your viewers, your adoring fans, and the whatnot. But we're here. We did it. We persevered.
We did. We had a harrowing adventure with clicks and pops and audio and websites not wanting to connect properly. And we live in this technological world where it is so wonderful when technology works, but it is the most infuriating thing on the planet when it doesn't.
We're here, though.
Yeah, we're here. So, Alex, you've got something coming out. We're not going to bury the lead because there's probably going to be part of the title. I don't know what we're calling this episode yet. I'm not like Joe Branton over there at the Guitar Nerds who decides on the episode title before they start recording, because I never know where this is going to go. But it's been a while since you've been on the podcast. What have you been up to lately? First of all, you're in a new space since the last time I talked to you.
Yes, new space indeed. Last you were here, we had only talked about it. I don't even remember if like the foundation had been built when you were here with the Guitar Dads. But we've since chatting, we'll have to look back when our last episode was. Maybe it was for Triple Graph or something like that. Can't remember.
Yeah, it was. I can't remember either because I've slept too many times since then. So
yep. So since then, one of the core things, we've been moving into a new shop. We're here. It's on the same location, but it's the second story of like a large garage that my dad had been wanting to build for a long time. So we're occupying the second story here, kind of getting everything feng shuied since like around March with like a production area, shipping area, media area. Mixing the chemicals, that type of thing. See what's going to work with us, because you were at our old shop, which was in like a basement and a like underground garage. It was like, furnished, if you will, to the extent that a workshop would be. And so now we're taking all of those things that we spent 8 or 9 years, creating, and we're putting it into this now, which is nice that we're only like 100 paces away, so we could, filter it in slowly one day, then not another, then another day, and over the summer and whatnot. So we're about 90+% of the way moved in, but also now we're juggling that day to day still. It's like we didn't just shut down for 2 weeks and whatnot and move everything. It was like we kept the orders open for dealer, distro for direct, all that stuff. It's tough to juggle those type of things, you know?
Yeah, and so when I was up there and it was really cool getting to look around, see all the things. While I was up there, the thing that really impressed me, and having gotten to see, I've been, doing the podcast now for 5 years and gotten invited to see operations in a bunch of different places. The thing that really impressed me is the way y'all organize your workflow is really I don't know, the way things are color coded, the way things are sectioned off, it makes sense, but never would I have done it that way, not because I think there's a better way, but it's like the way your brain worked to organize your workflow, my brain doesn't work that way. And it was so cool to see how the process worked, how things flowed, your color coded parts boxes, and like I don't know. It's really impressive to see, and I wish my brain worked like that.
Yeah, I think it's helped people, you know. I've been a proponent, like organizing infrastructure has been kind of like my like comfort zone here and like a bread and butter of mine. And we have had some compliments from industry folk on that. And it's worked for us for a flow, you know, like color coding everything based on the model, you know. So we're going to talk about a Foxcatcher at some point, and all the lockers
Yeah,
for it were all like that orange or brown color, and you know, all that type of stuff. So it's like you could relate instantly. And I've never formulated like a formal argument for it, but I feel colors, and even people that are colorblind can often like determine different colors and whatnot, and they're taught. Um, Colors often find to be the easiest and most recognizable thing for organization and that type of infrastructure. Like you can do, like I also had a warehouse gig at one point where it's like you could do letters, you can do numbers, you can do all that type of stuff. You can't see letters and numbers from a distance until you're close enough, right? Or it has to be huge. um but you can see like the red barn faster than the barn that says 10. You know what I mean? Just like you're going to see a blot of color, whatever shape it is, no matter what, you're going to see like, oh, it's over there on, go to that red barn versus going over there to that like orange barn, right? Versus like this one is over in 1J and this one's over in 2J, something like that. Like,
yeah,
and the colors can transcend like language and stuff, which we don't really have to worry about here, but like, it's been something that's been beneficial. You can see it instantly, like, oh, go put it on that purple shelf, not the one that's labeled like shelf A, because that's like, how big can
right.
I make that word that says shelf A to see it? You know, like people can recognize the color pretty fast. So, I've kind of forced that infrastructure style on everybody, but nobody's really had a problem. Um, so yeah, we've just been kind of doing that for the last few months while working on a new release that we're going to talk about that we've had in the queue for a long
Yeah,
time. You know, just keeping up with dealers, distribution. We had like 2 years. I don't even know if we did an episode, Philip, about our DIY offerings. I think we maybe did one, right?
yeah.
We were
I think we did. We talked about it. Oh, and it's funny, we chat in general and we chat on the podcast, and it's like it's hard to remember. Did we say this on an episode, or was this like when I was up there? Because we were talking about DIY when I was up there. You were showing me all the parts, and I've got a bunch of the breadboards here and a bunch of parts, and I've put together all the kits that y'all had, and it's been really really cool to see that kind of blow up for y'all.
Mhm.
Um, I love seeing that other people are getting to experience the building side of it, even if they never build their own pedal. They did get to, you know, they get to breadboard it and see how that process works. And I think it gives a better appreciation of the work that goes into pedal design and circuit design. And because I know that, for example, I got the pedal boards, or I'm sorry, pedal boards, the breadboards, and I built all the kits, and then I was like, I got adventurous. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna build a tremolo, right? And then I did not get there. And so I was like, I'm still gonna do it. It's still in my head. Because I have a pedal design in my head that I want to build,
Mhm.
and I want to see it come to be a thing. But I obviously have some more gaps in my knowledge and skill set that I have to fill before I can do that kind of thing. But it's been really cool that that opportunity came because a company saw that, hey, breadboarding is great and this kind of design is great, but it's daunting to someone who has no starting point. and you were able to provide, okay, here's a ready-made breadboard with jacks and a switch and power, and here are some instructions how to build some of the most popular circuits on the planet. And it's a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, it was approachable. We also got pretty busy when Josh Scott started doing the short circuit series, and um, any fans listening will want to keep an eye out for something on the horizon after Josh's like full recovery and whatnot. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
As we're recording, he did his first live stream since the accident
Mhm.
today. And so check that out. We won't talk too much about that because we don't want to spoil that. But so you've moved shops, you had the explosion of the DIY stuff. And in the midst of all of that, you've launched a new pedal that we're going to talk about. I'm going to hold up the old version though for you YouTube viewers. So the Foxcatcher, those that know it in this format. Hopefully you're seeing that. This is the overdrive plus boost. Again, the color coding, which is just a hallmark of the stuff y'all do, just the way things are coordinated aesthetically. This is a great pedal. I've gotten to spend some time with it. I like it a lot. Let's talk about that one first before we get into the V2 as it is.
Sure, yeah. So Foxcatcher in its original form, um, and I'll kind of give a overview of kind of like its origin and whatnot. Listeners that like nerdy deep dive stuff, we just launched a video that I did that's a full history of the inception and idea on a breadboard all the way through the versions, Fusion series, the V2, all that type of stuff. So anybody that really likes that stuff should go check that out. It's like a history lesson that we did on Foxcatcher. But anyway, we launched the V1 that Philip was showing in 2016, November of 2016. So it was 9 years ago next month. It was our first entry into overdrive because at that point as a company we only had our little mini boost pedal Gravity Bomb, and we had Daedalus, our plate style reverb, and we were working on an overdrive pedal. We knew we were going to use Gravity Bomb as the boost side, but we wanted to do a 2-in-1. We had lots of talks to do like Tube Screamer or FET style, and it was kind of missing the mark when we were first breadboarding it. I had a Bluesbreaker style pedal that I really enjoyed in the shop, and I was like pitching it to the guys like, what if we do this? Because 2016 you didn't have a lot on the market for Bluesbreaker. That market was essentially like you had KOT, Morning Glory, maybe the Snouse Black Box was out at that point. I don't even remember. Forgive me if it
Was it
was.
out that
I
early?
I can't
I
recall.
feel like that was
I don't think
Yeah, or maybe I just heard about it later, and so I feel like it came out
I don't
later.
think Jesse Davies like Kingtone stuff was out at that point, but like you didn't see a lot of Bluesbreaker type stuff. Even Marshall didn't have the reissue stuff, right? Obviously they had a couple different iterations back in the day, but I want to do it because most of our stuff, especially in the onset, was reactionary. I don't know if I talked to you about this. Like everybody was doing digital reverbs, and I wanted to do like a tank plate style. Everybody was doing EP boosters and FET stuff, and I was like, you know what, we're gonna do microamp and go op amp. And then we were doing this. I was like, let's do Bluesbreaker because you didn't see it a lot in 2016. So we started on Bluesbreaker. Basic 3-knob control. I was trying to do something in the tone control that I failed at doing, and it ended up just becoming the nature knob, and people enjoyed it for what it is. Essentially it handles the higher end of the EQ curve that you don't get on the tone knob. So it's kind of like you can think of it almost like anti-presence, but it's like kind of adjusting those. You got the tone for like the highs and then the presence for like the uber highs, so you can shelf off some of the really highs or just your normal tone control that you're affiliated with. Kept it true to like the low gain style, and we added Gravity Bomb. The biggest thing that we got from feedback from fans before it came out and dealers and whatnot was, give me an order toggle so I can change if it's pre or post on that boost.
Yes.
We did that. People really liked it. We had the form factor kind of dialed in with Daedalus, that first reverb pedal, and then this kind of like solidified a 2-in-1 aspect with the multicolored washers around the foot switches. We really liked the layout, everything that was going on, and it was if people don't know us from the Telegraph or like the Jack White collab, they probably know us from this, which is really cool in such a vast, saturated, and expansive world for dirt pedals, you know?
Yeah, there's so many. I posted a picture over in the 40-watt Discord, which I'll take just a second to pitch. If you are a listener of this podcast and you engage on Discord, there is a 40-watt Discord server. It is free. Link should be below. If it's not, go over to 40wattpodcast.com and you can find it. But I posted today because in the last couple of days, I've been checking out the V2 Foxcatcher, which I'll show here in a second when we get to it, and playing the regular Foxcatcher. It sent me down an overdrive rabbit hole, and I dragged out every overdrive pedal I have that isn't currently on a pedal board, which is a lot. It's humbling to see them all sort of in one place. And I started just playing through them all because a part of me was like, okay, Philip, this is ridiculous. You need to play them, see which ones are super redundant and can be replaced. You know what? They are all uniquely voiced, I've discovered, and every one of them has a place, even if they're just various shades of blue is what they are. They're not even multi shades of the entire light spectrum. They're just all shades of the same color in a lot of ways. And I need them all in my life. But to have something that becomes recognizable in the overdrive space is so hard nowadays. You don't see a lot of people getting recognized, even though it's probably the best-selling pedal for any brand is their whatever their basic, low to mid gain overdrive is. It's still hard to be known for
Yep.
it.
It's a crowded thing to be in, and no matter how good you make it, because I don't know, what skirts up to the surface, whether it's a large player, a backed thing, just word of
Yeah,
mouth, like really bootstrap thing, hype, whatever the factor is, like, we for our like non telegraph key related stuff,
yeah,
Foxcatcher's lasted the longest and hasn't got discontinued or sunset to get replaced with something else. It's been a good seller, especially in that low to medium overdrive market. And again, we didn't have a lot of blues breakers out there, but like it it gravitated like something in there stuck with people. They really liked that, and I liked it because it was I'm not big on like mid forward stuff too much, like your Centaur and your Tube Screamer. Um,
yeah.
those are great for what they do,
Which,
but I wanted something with a neutral, especially coming off Gravity Bomb, which its EQ range is completely flat inside the hearing spectrum. It's not
mhm,
boosted treble, it's not boosted anything. The Foxcatcher side does the same thing, just with some EQ sculpting, but you're not changing your core like thing. It's not a like Bluesbreaker is actually closer to what somebody should call a transparent drive. Yet for some reason,
yeah.
yet the Klon Centaur gets that title, even though it's not, and specifically has been mentioned that it's mid forward thing. I don't know what people are doing. Maybe they're just regurgitating what other people hear, or maybe it sounds transparent to their ears, or maybe it sounds like what they want their thing to sound like. I don't know what it is, but the Bluesbreaker's EQ curve is just better for me.
I have a theory that people who think the Klon is a transparent overdrive, one, they aren't actually using the drive side of it, like it's all just clean
Hmm.
boost. And a lot of them are playing them into Fender amps,
Hmm.
which are scooped to begin
Yep.
with. So it makes the Fender amp sound flat,
Mm.
flatter. And so they think it's a transparent flat overdrive, and it's not. I think at this point, most listeners of this podcast, because you are all beautiful, smart, educated people, obviously, because you listen to this podcast. But y'all know that it's not. It's a mid forward overdrive in the same way that the Tube Screamer is. It's just the mids are in a different place. And it's a hard clipper versus a soft clipper. Yes, yes, I get it. All those things. But thinking back to like 2016 when you launched this, I feel like that was like prime Klon space. Like, yeah, I think that's about when you got to see the KTR start to pop up
Hmm.
and start to be a thing. I don't know if that's, the JHS clone was around then. So you were seeing the Wampler tumness was coming about, really finding its own there.
Yeah.
I think Zach over at Mythos was hitting it with the Mjolnir. So to have a overdrive that you didn't jump on the hype train with,
Yeah. Well,
that you did something that you didn't see represented enough in the
I think
offerings.
I've been on record talking about this, like, um, as a person that grew up and builds south of Boston, I've never wanted to do Centaur style because so many people were doing it. They were doing good jobs. They were doing their own takes on it. And
Hmm.
just as another Boston builder, I didn't want to do what Bill was doing. And I know the KTR had come back. It's funny. I was on the phone with him last week and we were talking about stuff like that. But like, just in general, like I didn't want to. He's kind of like a founding father of like the modern era of pedals, and I didn't want to do what he was doing as such a small, unique thing. And I don't know, maybe there can be an argument to be said about that, but like I feel like I didn't want to touch that. Whereas I feel like the Tube
Yeah.
Screamer and the Rat and the Fuzz Face are almost public domain at this point. I didn't want to do what Bill was doing in I think 95 or 96 or whatnot, but like I don't know, I just didn't want to touch it because everybody was doing it. I thought I had like this weird like Massachusetts respect to not do that as well. And we were just doing our own thing with a Bluesbreaker, which at the time Marshall didn't have any pedals or even their reissues or any of that type of stuff either. And again, that feels like it's like one of those almost like it's a public thing now, like it's become public domain. Plus we try to do a little bit of our own take on it with like expanding the EQ, having a boost on there as well. It just having its own flavor. It has a JFET output stage because like the KOT and a lot of other blues breakers, they don't have enough volume on them, and it has the second stage is an inverting op amp.
Yeah.
So there could be something there. But anyway, we really liked Foxcatcher. It caught with a lot of people. I think we had one of the guys from Kings of Leon was playing it, and there was some other artists that were using it as well. So it was getting around, and you were actually kind of seeing it, which is cool for, like you said, a sea of overdrives. I liked that it was 2-channel. I liked that it wasn't green. I liked that it had its own like art and vibe and aesthetic that we is become an identity for us. And yeah, we're just super happy with it, and we're excited for the next version in its lineage.
So to sort of wrap up a conversation around the V1, that is something you read my mind there, talking about the volume issues. Because again, you listeners, y'all listeners, I need you to understand that anyone consuming YouTube and podcast guitar content, you guys are in the like 1% of guitarists. Y'all are plugged in and know these things, so y'all know this. But the Blues Breaker notoriously was a quiet pedal that you had to crank the volume on to even get to unity. Um, and that's a thing that was shared in the King of Tone. Admittedly, I talk about it on the podcast. I don't even feel bad saying it with you here. King of Tone is my favorite overdrive, and we shared some things, the reasons why somebody would love it, somebody wouldn't. For me, it's my favorite, despite historically the blues breaker circuit not being my favorite. But when I first got it, I had a hard time with it because I didn't turn knobs that far to the right side of the dial. So to have to go that far to get, which you don't have to go as far on the King of Tone as you do on the blues breaker, yours had no shortage of volume. I don't have to crank it all the way to get to the levels I want to go to, which is nice to have that range. And I definitely feel like you carried that on to the V2. So moving that on almost like I meant to do it that way. The V2 is, as of the launch of this podcast, coming out this Friday. So the V2, let's see if I can get it to focus, is an interesting departure. Sorry, it's got a few smudges on it because I've actually been playing it. They You did a single size pedal instead of a dual sided pedal this time around.
This is our first foray. The number after 3 and then the letter before B. Something like 4A.
Yeah, 4A.
This is us dipping our toes for the first time, I should say. with a what we're calling our solo series. So Foxcatcher and
Yeah.
its brethren like Daedalus and Loma Prieta and Polaris, those were our duet series, 2-foot switch, whether that's independent or like controlling other stuff. Secondary features.
Hmm.
This is our first effort in what we had actually laid out 3 years ago for a solo series. So we wanted to do like a single thing that wasn't a mini. We want to do like a larger, entering that space for like the 125B top loaded thing. So we're doing
Yeah.
that, your classic Earthquaker or Walrus and stuff like that, right? Brian Wampler stuff now. So we had that layout for a long time. I wanted to flip the script on the 3 knob triangle thing instead of it being like 2 knobs up top and a knob in the middle, like on your tube screamers. Flip it upside down, get that big knob, that 30 millimeter knob on the top, and then a couple smaller ones. We wanted to make sure too, this is a Jordan point. He was like, well, what type of pedal is it? It's a drive pedal. Make the drive knob the big one. Because normally you see like
Yeah.
volume, tone, drive, volume, tone, drive, volume, tone, drive, right? I like that too, because I think that makes sense from a linear standpoint. However, we had to put the drive because like it's a drive pedal. So we're putting that on the big knob. And then
And on a 3 knob overdrive, just to interrupt, the one knob I'm most likely to
mhm,
tweak is the drive
yeah,
knob.
yeah.
You usually get the volume, if the volume works the way it should, where you want it, the tone kind of where you want it. So you just want more drive or less. I can operate this with my
Yeah.
foot.
Yeah, so when we were doing that layout, I really liked it because we kept the metal knobs, we kept that type of aesthetic going, um, and then I wanted to put toggle switches on there, and
Huh?
I had just enough room on the inside when doing the circuit board that I could fit those toggles just on the outskirts of that circuit board, and they hide around those knobs. And if you turn the pedal sideways for any visual viewers, Philip, you can see that the toggle switch bats are lower than the knobs, so you're not going to step on those toggle switches and break them. The knobs are kind of like
Yeah.
creating almost like a cage or some type of like, safety zone for them. So if you were to change that
Yeah.
drive knob with your toe and do like like a univibe type move that a lot of people do with changing stuff.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
So
You're going to break the
yeah,
knobs.
so instead of the toggle switch being in the way, it's kind of hidden up there, and you get those are like your tertiary stuff. I've always been a fan of it goes knob, then toggle, then something on the side like a dip switch, and then internal is the last thing. Um,
Yeah, and I'm holding this up a little longer because the automated scene switching I use for the podcast editing, it will only switch to me if I'm talking. So I'm holding it up so that people can see it that are watching the YouTube video. Um, yeah, it's really really attractive layout. And the one thing I'm going to talk about as we talk more aesthetics, because I find you're one of the more aesthetic minded brands who doesn't go like over the top aesthetics. Like, yeah, you've got your other brands that want to do like full crazy graphics and whatnot. Your aesthetics are very functionally minded. And so like you labeled the toggles with images, and I was amazed at how easily I understood what these meant. It's like orange amps, the hieroglyphic orange amps. It's easy to know what they do, even though there's no words.
sure, yeah, I've had an affinity and an appreciation for what Philippe Herndon does over at Caroline. They've got the philosophy
Yeah.
of it doesn't matter what it's called, just how do you twist and turn it. So we kind of took that iconography type of thing that we do on a lot of our stuff because I like to really be creative in that sense. But then we blended it as well with a name of it. So like we'll probably talk more in depth about it, but like the shape and the gain toggles both have icons. They both do something. The shape one obviously shows you a bit of
Hmm.
a visual curve. And then the gain one, we actually followed suit with the icons that we came up with for the Kingpin, that mini germanium overdrive, where it's a
Yeah.
circle with like a sine wave, then it's like a rounded square with a harder wave, then it's a full square with a sharper wave. So you have two shapes and sine waves getting more aggressive as the gain gets more aggressive. So that's to try to give the player a visual aspect. Now, we wanted to also have the labels, or the toggle switches, I should say, having a word. So we went with shape and went with gain, because there's a good chance somebody's going to go, yeah, so I really like this. I keep the shape in the up position and I keep the gain in the down position or whatever. They're not going to say I keep it in the EQ curve shape where it shows low end at, you know what I mean? Or like, they're not going to
Yeah.
describe that. They're going to say like, oh, I like it in the middle position. They're going to say that, but instead of just doing it A, B, C, or like up, down, middle, or whatever, or like low, medium, high, we wanted to get creative and have icons with it. Obviously the literature will elaborate on like what the low, the medium, and high is, but we got to like appease ourselves and have art meet like functionality, form and function kind of collaborating there, where it's like we can be artistic and creative and fun, but also I've tried to stress, like, can I look at a pedal and know what it does? You know?
Yes. That's what I want. I want things that I'm not.
Artistically, though,
I
too,
talk about
can
this.
it be artistic? I'm a huge Strymon fan, but they're very left brain when it comes to like their stuff. But I think they have to be, you know. And then you get
Yeah.
Caroline, which is very right brain, and I can see it deterring people. So we tried to blend somewhere in between, because I see both ideologies here. They both have their place and whatnot. But could we blend artistic, creative with the UI?
Yeah, which is huge for a player like me when I'm playing a gig live and I need to adjust something on the fly, which is why me and modelers typically don't get along, because I need to be able to adjust on the fly, because at this gig, this works. At this next gig in a very different situation, this isn't working anymore. I need to change it. I can immediately look at this and know what I need to adjust quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, now, let's be honest, for a 3-knob overdrive, you should be able to with just some toggles. And I definitely found my favorites pretty easily, because I know the sounds I like. It's middle on both switches, which is I've taken to calling, and this may not be the language that y'all use in the literature, but it's like on the shape, the upper is a flat setting, which that's very obvious. I'm calling the middle like a low pass and then a high pass, even though that's probably not accurate, but that's how I see the icons. But it's just the middle position has a little more of that low mid oomph that I like so much, because I play in trios. If my I realize that in recordings, people cut bass for guitar to stick out, right? And if I were playing with a keys player or a second guitar player, that's what I would want, the flatter or the high pass. But I playing a trio, I'm the only guitarist, I'm gonna stick out. It's just the way it is. I need a little more oomph and gravity to my tone, so that when I start playing solos or single note lines, it doesn't feel like the weight of the guitar sound has dropped out of it. And I get that. I don't get that from every overdrive that's out there. A lot of them are tweaked for that upper mid push to cut in a thicker mix, and they don't work as well for trio work like I play.
Sure. Yeah. No. Yeah. When you're with a trio, you need to be full, and full is in the lows and the mids, and to elaborate on the shape knob or the shape toggle for the V1. Anybody listening, we had a tone control and a nature control. I
Mhm.
think I've instituted here. The rule is one knob can be fun and clever and playful, but they can't all be, because now I don't know what like velocity means and nature means. Now this one is called girth, and then this one is called like umbrella, like, so we went with like nature was the one thing where it's instead of presence, right? But on that one we had tone and presence, right? But the presence really only handled with the more upper highs, like the upper high
Yeah.
register, and the tone handled your normal like highs, like you can never adjust the low end anywhere. So what we did with the tone knob is we expanded that so it kind of does what the nature and tone would do in unison with each other if you were to crank both or
Mhm.
min or noon both of them. And then we put the shape, it's detailing the low end contour. You're going to get like the low end boosted like you were used to in V1. You're going to cut a little bit of it, or you're going to cut a good amount of it, and you could really do that like strat comping type of thing where you're kind of like that type of vibe, right?
Yeah.
You can really cut out those low end, especially if you got like uh full like a bassist and like another rhythm guitar. So shaping the low end was huge for us here because you could never do it, you know. And then the biggest thing that we had from the V1 critique wise was people wanted two things. They wanted a standalone version to pair with, like, let's say their favorite overdrive or whatever. Sorry, their favorite boost pedal. And they wanted more gain on tap. Those are the two things. Usually the Bluesbreaker world keeps it pretty low gain. Um, Analog Man does different gain structures differently than this does. It doesn't do it the same way that we do it.
Yeah.
They do it with different style stuff. I won't go into that. But we wanted to offer it with more gain, but keep the essence of the thing. We don't want to like change, like, okay, now it's a mid gain as well. We wanted to keep the essence of what Foxcatcher was known for, what people liked it for the V1. So I found a clever way to increase the gain amount in the second stage where the clipping is done. So because it's done that way and not just like adding a boost at the front end, because I find adding a boost at the front end can give it almost like a digital distortion-esque quality when you're hitting it with so much boost at the front end. So it's actually done in the second stage where the clipping is, and in turn actually adds compression to it because it's picking up that noise floor. So you're going to get more compression and you're going to get more gain, or you can get the classic low gain that it's known for doing. So you can access like a low, medium, or I'd say it's in like more of like the higher range of overdrive. It's not a distortion pedal, but it kind of
No.
it goes from that like almost no gain on it at all, kind of like where a boost ends and then where a distortion starts. It kind of covers that
So
range.
the way you describe it makes me think of when you say that it's almost digital. It's to me it's that sound when and I buzzword alert listeners, just being honest. Um, it's how, what we want out of a lot of us in that play like I do, roots, blues, rock and roll kind of stuff. We want a pedal that doesn't sound like a pedal, that sounds like an amp pushed and overdriven. That's the thing we're always chasing. We're always chasing the sound of a cranked amp where we're using our volume knob to tinker with the amount of saturation, but we don't want it to sound like a pedal, but we need to do it in a pedal. I think to me that's that sound you're describing. It's that moment where it flips over to not sounding like a pushed amp anymore. It sounds like a pedal. And to me those gain structure and maybe this is just because they've been on my brain lately, and forgive me for the comparison because I know that it works completely differently, but it sort of reminds me of the way um on the Timmy the gain structure switch on the Timmy is, where it's like I think it's one that like skips a clipping diode or something like that. And some y'all are going to come after me. I get it. I don't remember. Then there's one that's symmetrical clipping and one that's asymmetrical clipping. And while this may not be the same, it gave me the same vibe of essentially I find the gain structure I like, and it just makes it more versatile to me that it fits whatever situation I'm using.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's I can see that. That's a fine comparison. I think the Timmy takes its two series diodes and bridges the middle. But this
Okay.
one keeps the same traditional classic diodes that you find in blues breakers, but it does stuff around it differently. So it's actually changing the feedback um like voltage and amplitude and everything while just letting essentially like heating up that second circuit and diodes and everything. So
Yeah.
it's cool the way it does it. I didn't And also it was great, I could do it without adding a whole nother like overdrive section, you know what I mean, or a whole nother like op amp section. And again, like I said, adding a boost before something like this makes it feel almost like um digital pedals back in the day, like a pedal that was a multi effects that was okay for reverb or delay, but then the distortion sounded like awful. It sounded like very digital, like playing like a digital pedal from back in the day. It's
Right.
so I'm glad that we didn't have to add more stuff to it or take away the essence, and we could still get like you can still get into, and if for any listeners that want to like watch the other nerd aspect that I did besides the history video, I did like a full tech breakdown, kind of like a Pete Selly style from Strymon of like the overviews, and we kind of get into the weeds of it. You know, it's less rock, more talk for this video, but it kind of goes through some of the features and um those I kind of break down kind of what we did and why we did it and the choices that we made for it. And we just wanted to be able to get it into quote V1 mode and then just really expand to go into V2 because we didn't want it to be like, here's V2. It's nothing like the other one, but has the same paint job.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see that occasionally. That does bring me to a question I wanted to ask that I meant to ask you, like, not on the air, but instead we're gonna do it on the air. What a terrible
Dun
time
dun
now.
dun.
Um, I know. Does the V2 mean the V1 is discontinued?
Yeah, so it's been a weird overlap on that. We still have the V1. I think as the V2
Mhm.
comes out, there'll probably be some type of price reduction for people to go get like that version 1 piece of history. If they like the aspect, you know. It's funny, we joke all the time that people are like, "Oh, the V1, it's got a cool sound, but like it's too big and I don't want the boost." And then we're gonna come out with this, and we're gonna hear a lot of people going, "Man, I wish it had like a boost in it, like a 2-in-1." And we're gonna be like, "Where have you been for 9 years?" But people
Right.
receive information different speeds and whatnot. So, but you know what? We have Gravity Bomb V2 out, so you could literally pair the two of them together. You could make Foxcatcher V1 with those two because Gravity Bomb has the V1 Gravity Bomb style in it with added mids. Um, but yeah, no, I think to answer your question, the V1 is we've got maybe like 40 units left of those, and they're gonna be gone when they're gone. And we're on to the V2. We'll probably be doing some like fun limited Fusion series stuff with the Foxcatcher, you know.
Yeah.
So people can keep an eye out for that. But yeah, they can grab a piece of history with the V1 as we celebrate the V2, which has different features too. I want to talk about the foot switch. Can we talk about the foot switch here on this one? Hello.
Sure, because it's definitely a different one. I was looking at it very when I first got it, it was so man, I'm gonna try to hold this up so that people can see what I'm talking about. It's it's different. At least aesthetically it's different. How is it different otherwise?
So I'll explain that. The story behind that, and I just found out the guys who was the do like the revival drive. Um Origin.
Origin.
I just found out that they use that switch, which is really interesting, and it makes sense because their stuff is so diesel, you know? Um,
Yeah, they make the most overbuilt guitar pedals I've ever
yeah.
seen.
But anyway, they just discontinued or retired one of the big revival thing, and I noticed I was like, holy crap, I know those foot switches. The top of the plunger is so much different than anybody else's. So,
Yeah.
um, the story with the foot switch is, I want to say it was Winter Nam 2019. We were across from JHS, and we had our Ninja Turtles theme booth where we had all of our duets. We had red, orange, purple, blue, and we separated them all. We had pizza there, which was awful because we were in California. So we still had pizza though to keep it up,
Shots
to keep it
fired.
on brand.
I love it.
I don't know how many people at the wheel are going, no, our pizza's great. I know you come from the Boston and New York area, but our pizza's good. But anyway, we were there, and there was this company from Italy called ST Pro, and they had a goodie box for us. Knew we were going to be there, and brought me a gift of all the like a myriad of their parts. And one of the guys was like, "Feel this switch," and it was like, "Do do do do." I was like, "Huh, this is very industrious." It instantly made me think of what George Trips used in Way Huge, right? Not
Yeah.
quite all the way up to like the green Russian Big Muff stuff, right? Or the green phaser that they did, small stone. But it
Yeah.
has that like holy crap, this feels good. It's very like engineered Italian switchcraft stuff. We met with those and we were like, holy crap, these are awesome. We got to use it in the new series we want to do. Or at some point. It's so unique, nobody's using them. They're using the classic bulky triple poles, or they're using the soft touch stuff, which is great too. We use that in a lot of stuff as well. This is unique. It's also not a latching switch, it's a momentary switch. So it's gonna so I'll
Oh,
elaborate more on that. Essentially, the switch is obviously momentary versus latching. So the life cycle is much higher, but it feels like I like the feel of a click under my foot, especially as a former live player. Again, you're gonna tell
yes.
something's on with an LED and the sound most often, but I like that tactile feel. So we
So before you go past that though, because I want to talk about that, and some people think I'm crazy, but again, I'm a guitarist in a trio where I'm
yeah,
singing. I can't look down at the LED to make sure that I clicked it on. I realized it this past weekend playing a gig. Um, I look down to reorient myself. Where is the pedal? So that when I finish this verse, I don't have to look down going into the chorus. I can step on it, and I need to feel that it comes on,
sure.
that I've clicked it.
We've always had the live player in mind when we started this too, because a lot of us were live players or still are. And we thought of
Yeah.
the live player at the forefront of a lot of it. So when we met with that company in 2019, we got the switches not long after because we were forecasting doing stuff. So we've had those switches for like 5 years now at this point. We've got a ton of them. We use them though in our Broadway and Strategy because they have the same smart bypass. They make them in gold, which is really nice. These things are really cool. They're rugged, they're beefy, they're put together so well. So we built our thing around it because it's unique. Nobody else is really using them. There's a couple companies I could name that are using them. So we were designing that our new switching system in this. So Fox V1 is a classic like on-off latching, true bypass style thing. This one has what we're calling smart bypass, and what this does differently, it does some stuff similar to others, and it does it also differently. So this first feature for Smart Bypass allows for momentary or latching operation. So some of the listeners might be familiar with it for flexi switching that Jamie does over at Earthquaker. You can also see it. A
Yeah.
couple other companies will do that, like momentarily hold it, and you'll be able to hear the sound until you let go, and it'll go back to its resting bypass state, right? Uh,
Yeah. Beatronics does a lot with
Yeah,
that.
so that
Um,
talks to usually microcontrollers and does some fancy switching and stuff. So ours is single click on, single click off. Or if I'm playing live and I just want to get a little bit of something, I can hold down, play a couple bars, let go, and it goes back to its bypass state. Now, yep, so
oh,
you can interject just for a little bit and then let go, which is really fun for like chorus and like other type of effects where it's like momentarily done, right? So
right.
we started doing that. We did momentary latching. If you're the type of player that screws you up and you step on the pedal maybe for that bar because you're a timing type person, you can shut it off on the inside. You don't have to have the momentary on. You can go back to classic, just I want to press it once and it goes on, press it once and it goes off. So you can shut off the momentary. The factory setting is it's on for momentary, but you can shut it off easily on the inside. So, in addition to that, we also wanted to have a couple other features here for the Switch for user experience and whatnot. So, besides the momentary latching and shutting it off, if you were to, we use specific relays for this. If you were to lose
Uh-huh.
power or even unplug the barrel, it'll default go to bypass. It won't get stuck in the on position like some relays do or
Y-
classic mechanical switches
Yes.
do. So for whatever reason, Fox V2 has a problem power wise. It's going to default. It's going to shut off the whole circuit. We're going to go input jack to output jack, and that's the end of it, which is a nice comfort for live players, as a person that thinks about live players a lot. So the last feature that we added for the live player, and this is actually a more unique one, which is why it's on the inside, we
Hmm.
added a startup feature. So if you're the type that has a looping rig, as in like a true bypass looper, whether it's a gig rig, an ES5 or 8 or whatever it is, um, we actually made it so that you can choose whether your pedal starts in the on position or off position when you fire up your board, especially for players that are using like bridges or stuff is hidden underneath. If you fire up your board, it's going to start bypass just because that's its normal state. I unplugged my pedal. Okay, it defaulted to bypass until we see you again next week or what, or at your band practice. If you set it to start up in the on position, when you plug in your board and you fire up power, with your true bypass looper, Foxcatcher will start in the on position. Again, it's a small
Yeah.
thing, but instead of turning it on and having to turn every pedal on and then go to your looper, it's one of those minor things that we really enjoyed like having as a feature set. Like, you could get it's a first world problem, but you know what?
It's a total first world problem, but and I'm not that type of player. I don't use. I've done the big switcher boards, and they don't ever work for me. That I end up hating it, and for many different reasons. It's not because they're not valid and amazing tools. My brain doesn't work like that. But it's fun when I go on forums or I go on Reddit and I see people complaining about it's very often boss pedals because boss pedals start up. I actually feel like it's hit or miss. That it feels like some start up on, some start up off. But they're like, is there a way to make them start on so that I'm not constantly, every time we fire up the rig or if we lose power during a gig and it goes, these are like, you know, 1% of situations or players that want this, but it's nice to have it
Sure.
there for those folks.
Yeah, so that was like the last thing that we had for like the smart bypass accoutrements and everything, if you will. The last feature that we put into Foxcatcher V2 that we had in V1 and we kept is 9 to 18 volt operation. So if
Yeah.
you're the type of person that wants a little bit more headroom out of the components in there, or I've got a power supply that has a dedicated 18-volt out, well, great, we can accommodate you. And I even wrote an article for Premier Guitar about 18-volt philosophy of like whether anybody's going to use it or not. If your thing has the capabilities, which is very easy when it comes to components, voltage ratings, just write
Hmm.
9 to 18. Especially if it's a 12, that's barely a change. That's It's a 30% change overall, but like almost everything's going to have a voltage of like 25 or more. Put 12 on there because you got that old power supply that has a isolated 12, isolated 18. Like, oh, what the heck am I going to use this for? Everything's 9 volt. There's a very, very good chance all of your dirt pedals can take 18, even if it does. And I made the argument in this thing, even if it does absolutely nothing to your sound because the whole pedal is regulated, give it that
Right.
spot. What does it matter then anyway? It's like, oh,
Yeah,
they
exactly.
designed this. I can't hear a difference between 9 and 18. Who cares? That outlet only does 18. So just
Yeah.
do it. Just do it. Just make it 9 to 18.
I'll caveat listeners, unless you're using a classic Klon style circuit, please don't plug it into anything but 9 volt ever, 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 because it will fry. Hopefully, just the protection diode that burns out and you can replace that. But if you're playing a different company's circuit that didn't put in protection diodes, it could fry a lot. Um, yeah, I appreciate that. Like I said, even if it doesn't make a difference, because you can regulate that where it's like, oh, it'll use this much power, but it's going to drop it down to the actual amount of power the pedal needs. Regardless, um, again, I'm going to advocate listeners get good power supplies
Mm-hmm.
so that you don't have to worry too much about that.
Here,
I
here.
use the Chox ones that have the switchable power settings. You can do 9, 12, 18 on it, but it's nice for something to be it there's a phrase for this that my brain is just not coming up with. Accommodating. This pedal's very accommodating for whatever your rig is, whatever your situation demands. This can make it work. You've got the multiple the gain settings, the multiple EQ shaping, multiple power shaping. It's in a smaller enclosure. It's got top jacks, which people lose their minds about, and I don't actually care as much as some people. But it's the most accommodating overdrive
We
pedal.
really focused on, we had this form factor over a year ago, a couple years ago, dialed in all of the errors and the trials and the tribulations. Those were all squashed, and we've had it for a long time, and now we're finally, it makes sense to have the first one be this. It was going to be under a different name. There's going to be a different thing. Then we realized Foxcatcher actually has a name for itself. It's done all the work. We'll have the V2. And maybe actually, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, Philip. Can you see the difference in the icon? The Foxcatcher.
Oh, luckily I have, like I said, I have them both
Mhm.
in front of me. So let me. Oh, I do. So in one, there's the eyelet that
Like the
there's
keychain
only
eyelet.
one eyelet, the keychain
Uh-huh.
eyelet for V1. There's two of them in V2.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
nice.
Same paint job and
Now
everything.
I'm looking to see if that's the only thing. Do
As
what?
far as I'm aware, that is the only thing. But,
Yeah, that's it. That's the
it's
only
just,
thing.
it's, sized for the product. But yeah, no, we're super happy with the layout. I'm glad that you find it, like, appealing. It makes sense from a user standpoint. It aesthetically looks weirdly like nobody was doing that layout. How are we
No,
like, 200 years into pedals? No. Uh, how are we
whatever
like
it is.
50 plus years into pedals and, like, that layout's never been done, you know?
So I will tell you, just listeners, full disclosure, I've had this in my possession for a little while now, and I've had a couple of gigs where I wanted to put this on the pedal board, but I also I had it pre even the initial release where you let people know about it, you put out a video about it. I was really anxious about I can't put it in just in case I take a picture of my pedal board or somebody takes a picture. I don't want to have to deal with having it all of that. I really wanted to put this on my pedal board for a couple of gigs I've had recently. So now I can. I'm going to try it out in a live situation and see it holds up. For me, that's always the answer because I'm not the studio musician that some guitar players are. I'm a very much a live environment person, and I don't get as many opportunities to do it. So I don't know how much I like something until I use it on a gig. Like, does when I put it in the mix, or I'm, you know, when something happens and I need to adjust something on the fly, how easy was it? All those things. And so I'm excited to give it a try and see how it handles that situation. I suspect it will do it very well. I don't have any reservations about it. But it has so many options for a three knob overdrive. And listeners, I know we talk about versatility and three knob overdrives all the time, but it really is. I feel like it's got a setting that will suit most players' rigs.
I think you can get most out of it because you can go all the way from like pretty much no overdrive as just like a EQ boost, which again you can do with a lot of stuff. People do the Centaur like that, and they're spending too much money for a boost. Um, and you can
Yes.
go all the way to almost distortion. You know, like we wanted to like higher gain overdrive here, so we're really super happy with it. The EQ range on the tone control is much wider. You get to contour the bass now for the first time ever, or leave it classic. You get to add two
Yeah.
different gain settings on the last thing at more compression, more drive, really fire up those diodes, or keep it classic like the original one. The volume taper is better on this one as well because if you had low gain mode on the V1, you did have to bring the volume up pretty high, not like the original circuit, but you had to bring it up a bit. This one has a better taper on it, so if you are in the low gain mode, it doesn't feel like you have to crank it, and if you're in higher gain mode, it doesn't feel like you have to choke it either. So it's got a
Yeah.
better setup, and all this the smart bypass stuff is really fun too. Like we're trying to add, like a really pack in an added value for like a small format thing.
Yeah, so it's one of these things where I know we've spent most of this episode talking about this new release, and typically when I bring guests on, we try not to be too heavy focused on like the release. We want to hear more about the company and how they do things and how they got into this and their philosophies. But the thing I love about the way you talk about your products, you talk about products way differently than a lot of other builders, because I feel like in just talking about the product, we learn about who you are and what y'all value and how y'all think when you're designing things. So it's not just about Foxcatcher V2, it's about how do we adapt to what players want? How do we, meet players' needs where they are? And it's never seems like a vanity project. You know what I mean? There's some builders that put some things out, and I'm so glad they do. This isn't a condemnation of that philosophy, that they're like, I love this idea. It will appeal to four people. And so we're going to launch this. And I'm glad they do, because that means those four people that may not have gotten their thing get the thing that makes them excited to play. But this is building, it's a philosophy of building tools for players that actually meet demands in a saturated market. And I really like that
Well, you
approach.
kind of pointed at it and I corroborated it too with like, we want to find a way to have like left and right brain meet, be artistic, be creative, push the envelope, not just settle on basic stuff, but also not get so artistic that you even lost focus of what you're using as a tool to make the art.
Right.
So we try to blend those aspects of art, creativity, color scheme, the reasons for stuff that we do. Like, it's not just willy nilly, like we discuss kerning, we discuss like all of that stuff. Like it gets crazy. I know we even have jokes about it that, no one's going to pick up on that and they're not even going to notice it. And like, but we still do it for us, and I think the people that do notice it and pick up on it, they appreciate it, kinda like when you listen to an album or watch a movie that you really like, right? And you're a buff on that, and then you watch the documentary or behind the scenes, you learn something about it, and you're like, "Oh, shit, they did that for this scene." Now, you liked the movie to begin with, or the album to begin with, but then watching the documentary, you had a newfound appreciation or, like, reinforced and really, like, put it over the top of, like, "Okay, now there's like 3 more reasons why I like this so much, and it's really nice to
Yeah.
have those."
I did not notice this until you asked me about the difference in the iconography on it. Just to sort of hammer this home. So, listeners, if you're a listener and you're not a viewer and you're not seeing the artwork in front of you, I'll just show the big one because it's a little easier to see. It's a Swiss Army knife with a foxtail as one of the tools. There are dings on the outer edge of the Swiss Army knife, which if you just had one in front of you, it would be easy to say, oh, that's just, I don't know, inconsistencies in the printing of it. But I have two in front of me. They have identical dings and nicks in the edge of, and if you're someone who's ever owned a Swiss Army knife, they get beat up from use, and because the outer sides is plastic, and they get these nicks and cuts, and because they're in your pocket with everything else. And it's just a tiny detail that nobody gives two shits about, but it's there because it's there, and I love it.
It's something for you, Philip, for, the visual people, and they can see it on the history one, but this is the knife it's
Yeah.
modeled after. That's
Well, that's awesome.
so this was my uncle's knife, and, we were working when we were doing Foxcatcher V1, I had the name for it, and we wanted to do an icon, and I thought it would be cool, and it was Daedalus was the first one to it didn't really blend it as well, but Foxcatcher was really the one
Mhm.
to solidify, um, marrying two things that don't go together for our, like, icon artwork, which maybe at some point we'll have a series where we go through those, but essentially, we took out this large classic blade and put in the foxtail as one of the utility things, we kept that going, like, with
Yeah.
Polaris has the telescope coming out of the igloo. Loma Prieta had a roller coaster which meets a bridge and stuff like that. So we put two things together, and that's been our icon for a lot of like our stuff. Like it's blending two things that don't go together and making it artistic. Kind of like the hot air balloon with the anchor. I always think of that icon that
Right.
Modest Mouse would use a lot of times, where there's also kind of like the philosophy of like stay grounded but kind of keep your head in the clouds as well. So it's kind of that duality, that push pull. So we kind of took this thing that was my uncle's, and like it became like a thing that I had here in the shop. I've always had it, so we actually mirrored it off that. That's why the key thing is actually on this side, is because that's where it was on this actual Swiss Army knife. um
Yeah.
so yeah, it was kind of cool to actually get to model it off something that was in the shop, and Jordan did all the like the reason that the tools that are in it are the icon is because that's what was in it in this one. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, Alex, this has been great. We're going to keep talking. We're going to go over to Patreon and we're going to talk a little more about other stuff that's been going on with Coppersound, what's been going on with Alex. We might even shit talk California pizza some more. I don't know. Who knows what we're going to talk about over there. If you want more from me and Alex, you can go over to patreon.com/40watt podcast, $5 a month, gets you extra episodes. If you're not into the extra episodes, or hey, you're on a budget, click the free subscription. And I do post over there, not nearly as often as I should, but I'm going to work on that. What would you want to see as extra posts over there to incentivize y'all to help keep this show going? To my current Patreons, thank you so much. You do keep this show going. And you don't keep the lights on. I don't do this full time, but you do make sure that it's worth doing. Besides me just talking too much and wanting to talk to people. Click all the links down below to find Alex and Coppersound pedals. There's going to be links to the website, links to Instagram, links to YouTube, so you can check all of those out. Be sure to go over to YouTube, check out the already existing demos of the new Foxcatcher V2. I'm sure there will be more on release day if you're listening to this when the episode released on Friday. And Alex, anything else you want to tell folks before we go over to Patreon?
No, thanks for tuning in, listening to us ramble. Check out this Friday, November 7th, is the official launch for V2. We've weirdly done, I believe, every single Foxcatcher launch or iteration in its lineage in November, which is, I don't
Wow.
know, probably because there's like a Black Friday aspect to it, the holidays coming up, that type of thing. But it was kind of cool to keep it in the November thing.
Yeah, it's a very fitting autumnal
Yep,
color.
yep, it's great right now out back with the leaves, all of that type of stuff. Check out my full breakdown video. We have some other videos on it that are like just playing. You can see my tech video and check out the history video. It's got the last 9 years of the lineage if you're a nerd and want to check that out. And you can find it at distributors in like the UK, the EU. You can find it at our dealers. You can get it directly online as well. And appreciate you listening and following along.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, listeners, y'all know the drill. We'll see some of you over there on Patreon, but for the rest of you, be good to yourselves, be kind to each other, and make some noise.